बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अस्सलामुअलैकुम। বিষয় কোড 27261 ষষ্ঠ পর্ব 2022 অভিধানে কুলিং অ্যান্ড হিটিং লোড ক্যালকুলেশন, রেফ্রিজারেশন অ্যান্ড এয়ার কন্ডিশনিং টেকনোলজির সিলেবাস সম্পর্কে ধারণা। উপস্থাপনায় আমি আবু মোহাম্মদ আতিকুল্লাহ, চিফ ইনস্ট্রাক্টর ও বিভাগীয় প্রধান, রেফ্রিজারেশন অ্যান্ড এয়ার কন্ডিশনিং RAC, ঢাকা পলিটেকনিক ইনস্টিটিউট, তেজগাঁও শিল্প এলাকা, ঢাকা 1208। লার্নিং আউটকামস এই বিষয় হতে থিওরিটিক্যাল আমরা কি জানব: স্টেট ফান্ডামেন্টালস অফ কুলিং অ্যান্ড হিটিং লোডস, illustrate psychometric analysis of the air conditioning systems, explain solar heat load principle and applications, explain the elements of heating and cooling load calculations, describe the indoor and outdoor design conditions, explain the internal heat load calculations, describe the external heat load calculation, explain the load calculation and energy requirements, illustrates general approach to duct system and design, describe capacity calculation of RAC plant, calculate the different building loads, describe the ventilation and air distribution systems, explain central plant pumping and distribution system, describe the equipment selection of a refrigeration and air conditioning plant. Learning outcome practical. Prepare thermal conductivity and thermal conductance chart or table. Calculate the coefficient of heat transfer by E factor for the structure with difference wind velocity of outside. Calculate the transmission or wall gain heat load. Estimate the solar heat gain for cooling load. Calculate the product load of a cold storage or niche fish freezing plant or meat storage. Calculate the people load. Calculate the infiltration and ventilation load. Calculate the miscellaneous load. Observe a central HVAC or VRF plant. Calculate the total cooling load. Select the equipment of a refrigeration and air conditioning plant. তত্ত্বীয় বা থিওরি অধ্যায় আছে মোট 14টি, ব্যবহারিক বা প্র্যাকটিক্যাল অধ্যায় আছে মোট 11টি। অধ্যায় 1 বা প্রথম অধ্যায়, ফান্ডামেন্টালস অফ কুলিং অ্যান্ড হিটিং লোডস। Specific objectives 1.1, define cooling load, temperature different by CLTD systems, solar heat gain factor, SHGF or SHR systems, station, sensible heat gain, latent heat gain, radiant heat gain, space heat gain, space cooling load, space heat extraction rate and thermal resistance. 1.2, state the meaning of cooling and heating load. 1.3, interrupt psychometric process, sensible heating, sensible cooling, humidification and dehumidification. 1.4, state the heat transfer through a homogeneous wall. 1.5, state the heat transfer through non-homogeneous wall. State the meaning of KC/RNU factor. Explain the comfort condition and effective temperature. 1.8, mention the different types of heating and cooling load. Describe the step of calculation or for HVAC loads with example. Solve problems relating to KC/RNU factor. GO2 Psychometric analysis of the air conditioning systems. 2.1 Define the psychometrics. Define the humidity and humidity measurements. Describe the properties of moist air. Describe the ceiling and aspiration psychometers. Explain the locating for air condition on the chart. Explain the sensible and latent heat change process calculation, sensible heating and cooling. Explain the evaporative cooling process and the wet bulb temperature by WBT. Explain the supply air conditions. 2.9 Explain the contract factor and bypass factor. 2.10 Describe the comfort air conditioning systems. Solve the problem related to psychometric analysis systems. Geotheory, solar heat load principle and applications. State the meaning of solar heating and cooling systems. State the different types of basic solar angle and angle of incidence. 3.30 Describe the formula of solar angles. Explain the solar radiation intensity on Earth's surface. 3.5 Explain the shading of surface from direct radiation. Explain the solar energy storage systems. Describe the solar refrigeration and air conditioning systems. State the meaning of fan station. Describe the direct and diffuse radiation. Define the economics and feature of solar energy. Solve the problems related to solar heat loads. Geo4 Elements of heating and cooling load calculation. Specific objective 4.1 Explain the heat and comfort, health and comfort criteria. 4.2 Define the thermal comfort. Define the estimating heat loss and heat gain. Explain the design condition and use of safety factor. Describe the procedure of estimating heating loads. State the components of the cooling and heating load. Explain the effect of other variables on comfort. Solve problems of heating and cooling load calculations. Geo5 Indoor and outdoor design conditions. State the indoor design conditions. 5.2 Explain the heat exchange between human body and indoor environment. 5.3 Explain the mean radiant temperature and effective temperature. 5.4 Explain the indoor air temperature and air movements. 5.5 State the air cleanliness. State the sound levels. Describe the outdoor design conditions. 5.8 Solve problems related to indoor and outdoor design conditions. Geo6 Internal heat load calculations. 6.1 Describe the heat gain from the products. Explain the heat gain from the occupants. 6.30 Describe the heat gain from the appliances. Calculate the heat gain from power equipment. Explain the heat gain from duct. 6.6 Solve the problems related to product, people and miscellaneous load. Geo7 External heat load calculations. 7.1 State the external heat load. 7.2 Describe the heat gain by conduction through building structure. 7.3 Describe the heat gain due to infiltration. 7.4 Describe the heat gain due to ventilation. 7.5 Explain the heat admitted through glass and windows. 7.6 Solve the problems relating to cooling loads. Geo8 Load calculation and energy requirement. 8.1 State the load calculation data and procedures. 8.2 Define the kinematics informations. Explain the energy calculation. 8.4 Describe the indoor environmental modeling. 8.5 Describe the indoor air quality procedure development. 8.6 Explain the heat balance for the glass. 8.7 Explain the load calculations, general considerations. 8.6 Solve problems of load calculation and energy requirements. 09 General approach to duct system and design. 9.1 State the classification of ducts. 9.2 Describe the duct materials. Explain the duct construction. Derive the continuity and Bernoulli's equation for ducts. 9.5 Describe the pressure loss due to friction in ducts. 9.6 Explain the friction factor for ducts. 9.7 State the duct design methods. 9.8 State the equivalent diameter of a circular duct for a rectangular duct. 9.9 Explain the friction chart for circular ducts. 9.10 Describe the pressure loss due to construction, suction and discharge obstruction in a duct area. 9.11 Solve problems of duct system and design. 10 Capacity calculation of RAC plant. 10.1 State the general factor to consider design of refrigeration equipment. 10.2 State the types of chiller and VRF. 10.3 Explain the motor capacity. 10.4 Define the pumping ratio. 10.5 Explain the absorption type chiller design calculation. 10.6 Describe the information on the design of HVAC system. 10.7 Explain the VRF system components and diagram. 10.8 Explain the VRF system working procedure and design calculations. 10.10 Solve problem related to capacity calculation of RAC plant. 11 Calculation of different building load. 11.1 Calculate the cooling load of a classroom. 11.2 Calculate the cooling load of a library. 11.10 Calculate the cooling load of a duplex building. 11.4 Calculate the cooling load of a cold storage. 11.5 Calculate the cooling load of meat storage. এবং 11.6 Calculate the cooling load of a hospital or pharmacy. 12 নম্বর অধ্যায় হলো ventilation and air distribution systems. 12.1 Define the ventilation and air distribution systems. 12.2 State the types of fans. 12.3 Describe the room air distribution. 12.4 Explain the industrial process air cleaning, air pollution control. 12.5 Describe the air-to-air energy recovery. 12.6 Explain the control of fire and smoke. 12.7 Describe the kitchen ventilation systems. 12.8 Explain the supply air outlets and air distribution patterns. 12.9 Solve the problems related to fans and ducting systems. 13 Central plant pumping and distribution systems. 13.1 State the meaning of central plant pumping and distribution systems. 13.2 Describe the constant flow system. 13.3 Describe the central plant pumping and distribution system. 13.4 Draw the schematic diagram of chill water and condenser. 13.5 Explain the distribution system of chill water and condenser water systems. Geo number 14 Equipment selection of a refrigeration and air conditioning plant. 14.1 Describe the factor to be considered for selection about a coil. 14.2 Describe the procedure of selecting refrigeration compressor. 14.3 Describe the procedure of selecting air-cooled, water-cooled, evaporative condenser. 14.4 Describe the procedure of selecting the thermostatic expansion valve TEV. And 14.5 Describe the procedure of selecting the size of refrigeration pipe. এই হলো 14টা অধ্যায় এই বিষয়। থ্যাঙ্কস ফর অল। ধন্যবাদ সবাইকে।